Friends, David Paulides, CanAm Missing Project, and that is Huck. She is the executive director, producer, writer, videographer, audiographer, bon vivant. She's anything she wants to be. She is Huck TV, and she makes me talk about it all the time. Isn't that right? Yeah, she's a good girl. 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 Yeah, she's a good puppy. Yeah. Ready to take a little nap, huh? Yeah, ready to take a little nap, huh? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's a good girl. Oh yeah, that's a big yawn. So we're gonna get into it today, and I want you to know that Huck told me to wear her cap today, which I will, in her honor. Yes. Someone sent me this. Thank you. Huck, H-U-C-K. See that? Yes. It's actually a fishing cap that I have worn on occasion. It's pretty comfortable. And, yeah. I know, we all hear you. So a couple things. We always like to talk about national parks, right? And they just came out with a stat that said that Glacier National Park, which is like 25 miles from my house, had 12% more visitors in June than they had last year. So there's a lot of people visiting national parks. Now, I like to tell people, do not come to Glacier during the summer months unless you make a reservation to go in the park. Because between 6 a.m. and 3 p.m., you can't cross over going to the Sun Road. Which, if you come to the park, you're going to want to do it. The most epic drive in any national park, going to the Sun Road. Now, goes on to another point I make. Travel. U.S. people traveling to other countries. I understand why. No, I've done it. I mean, when I was younger, I loved going to the Caribbean. I loved to scuba dive. The water was so clear. Life in the water was so huge and beautiful. I loved it. Now, people traveling outside our country to hike in the mountains, I really don't get it. And here's why. First of all, our close cousins to the North, Canada, have epic mountains around Jasper in Alberta. The mountains there are unbelievably beautiful. Been there many times. Same with the Yukon Territory. I've been there many times. Parts of British Columbia, unbelievably gorgeous. But we have them right here in the U.S. And in my humble opinion, Glacier National Park is the most beautiful national park. I've been in, I think, probably 90% of our national parks. And Glacier is just epically beautiful. Not quite the same as Yellowstone. That's different because of the warm, beautiful pools that they have there. But it's different. And Yosemite is different. I mean, the amount of granite you see in that valley when you drive into Yosemite will just blow your mind. Which is why Yosemite is the #1 cluster of missing people anywhere in the world. It has to do with the granite, I'm telling you. And right through the middle of the granite is the Merced River. Just saying. Now, what we're talking about today is a young man that disappeared in a national park in another country. I'm starting to believe that national parks in other countries harbor the same issues that our national parks have here in the States and in Canada. Now, what is that, Dave? Well, that's a good question. I'm not sure what that is. But it does seem as though when you go into another country, the people that hike are oftentimes missing in national parks. Yes, that is a destination for many, and why people may go missing there. But I'm just saying. So let's get into it. This young man's his first name was Guilford. Middle name was Cole. His last name was Henderson. Everyone called him Cole. 27 years old. I placed him missing July 9th of this year, 2025. You're going to see different dates, 14th, July 14th, July 13th. I say it's July 9th. He went to school at the Andrews School in Middleton, Delaware. Graduated from there and went on to Rhodes College in Memphis, Tennessee, where he got a degree in computer science, and he graduated with honors. He was a smart young man. Interesting thing about Cole is his grandfather was a man named Guilford Dudley Jr., a former U.S. ambassador to Denmark, who was also from Tennessee, which is maybe why Cole went to college there. Cole graduated in 2020 and immediately got a job. He worked in 2 jobs before he established where he was in July. But his last job in the States was in San Francisco. I understand why he left there. He lived in Hyde Street in San Francisco. That is San Francisco, New York, LA, those downtown areas. I don't understand why anyone would want to work there. I'm sorry. But there's a statement I've heard rattling in my mind for the last 50 years. You are a product of your environment. Meaning that if you grow up in an apartment in New York City and you never travel outside of New York City, you really know nothing but asphalt and cement. Really. I mean, you may see the pictures, but you don't know what it's like being there until you go there. And I'm sure when Cole was living in San Francisco, he saw the worst of the worst. Drugs, drug abuse, drug dealers, filth. And he decided to get out of there. He applied for and he got a job in Amsterdam in the Netherlands, working for a company called Dexter Energy. And they advertised that's building AI for tomorrow. This is important. It goes to show that Cole was smart. First of all, he graduated with honors. Everyone out there that I read about said he was smart. And he was the absolute epitome of a world traveler. He hiked, even though he lived in these environments and he was from these environments with a lot of asphalt and cement, he got out of there. He probably got out of there to save his mind. But he's a world traveler. He hiked in Switzerland, went around Mont Blanc in Italy and France, throughout Colorado, and he went up to the Badlands of South Dakota. He even volunteered his time for a while in Costa Rica. That, to me, is a person with a good soul that would volunteer their time in another country. In early July 2025, Cole went on a trip that he had planned for a long time, of 2 weeks. And he flew from Amsterdam to Spain. And he was going to start his two-week journey that included a stop of the running of the bulls in Pamplona. Friends, I've got a lot of things on my bucket list. A lot. That is not one. I can understand why some people would do it. It looks like it maybe would be fun. I don't know. Having a bull running at me that has horns? No. I'm not doing that. So Cole rented a car And part of his plan was to hike in a national park in Spain. The national parks in Spain and in Europe have the same issues that we have with our national parks, inundated with people. And in several of our national parks now, you need a reservation to get in, and sometimes when you have the reservation, you still can't get into the park and you have to park outside and take a bus in. Same with Spain. Cole knew this. So he parked his car in a place called Torla, Spain. Torla is approximately where the red dot is. And then he was going to hike through the national park. From Torla, you board a bus. The bus drives you into the park. You get off the bus and you start hiking. He was going to hike through the park, catch a ride back to his car. Good plan. I'm sure hundreds, if not thousands, do it every year. Nothing unusual about it. I understand he was on his own. Now he had a phone, a cell phone with him. I have no idea what type. And that worries me because he didn't have a personal locator beacon, possibly. I think there's some people that have phones that don't even know they have a personal locator beacon on them. If you have a cell phone, research it. You may have it. So he parks the car in Torla, gets on the bus, and he's going to hike the Odessa y Monte Perdido National Park area. Now, Spain's description of the park, it's the north of Huesca in the Pyrenees of Aragon, the Pyrenees Mountains. Yeah, like the Pyrenees dog. Enthusiasts of high mountains will enjoy a unique national park in Spain. 4 main valleys, Anisclo, Escueto, Ordesa, and Ascuén. And a group of peaks, Mount Perdido, stands out, and it's a truly dreamlike setting. Look it up. Look it up. A natural paradise where you can explore meadows, enormous forests, incredible gorges, glaciers, and experience perpetual snow and admire the unique landscape of Spain. Now, when I looked this up, I said, "Wow, beautiful." Now, nobody said exactly what Cole was carrying in his orange backpack. Friends, if you're going to pick a backpack, pick an orange one or a bright red one. Why is that, Dave? Because if you get lost, that makes you easier to find. Now, always carry an orange coat, something really bright. And why is that? Well, when I was filming my Missing 411 documentaries, I've flown with quite a few helicopter pilots that flew search and rescue. And one of them told me, "Hey, Davey, make sure you tell your audience this, that if they're missing and they're on the ground, take their coat or something big and wave it over their head in a circle. And that will be easier to see from the air. And if you have a green coat, not going to be so easy if you're in a green forest. Orange coat, red coat, those stand out. Yellow coat stands out." I know some of you don't want to be flashy. I'm just saying. Now, the altitudes in the park that Cole was hiking go from 2,300 to 10,000 feet. Now, 10,000 feet is the summit of some of the bigger peaks. His friends said they weren't sure what route he was taking. Somebody online said, well, maybe he was going to hike Mount Perdido. Well, I doubt it. Here's why. He had no special ropes, no special shoes, boots, crampons. I doubt it. Now, the landscape in the park is dominated by water that's flowing out of the mountaintops. They said a vast panorama opens up before you of lush greens and white snow summits. Sounds beautiful to me. Whoever wrote it did a good job. There's 1,300 species of plants, huge pine trees, beech trees, and wildflowers cover the valley. And then they said, you may see large mammals such as chamois. What is that, Dave? It's a combination goat antelope. It's big. Probably aren't going to see those in the valleys. You're probably going to see those in the mountaintops. They also have roe deer and even brown bear. You may also see what's called a bearded vulture, which has a huge wingspan. I'd like to see that. Now, I want you to look online at the photos of the valley of the park, because I'm sure the Cole looked at these. It was never stated if he had a map. I hope he did. Like I said, there was very few details about what he was carrying. And I never understood why he specifically picked this spot. That was unclear. So he drives to the park on July 9th, parks his car at the bus loading area, gets into the bus, and gets taken to the trailhead drop-off. On that day, July 9th, Cole texts his friends saying that he had parked his rental car and he was embarking on his hike in the national park. That was at 2 p.m. on July 9th. He said it to his buddy that he was turning his phone on to airplane mode in order to save on battery life. Sounds good so far. Now, there was a picture that's going around of Cole. Now, this isn't at the park he was at, and I don't know if this was the backpack he was wearing. I think this was a picture in France. That's him. But they said he was carrying an orange backpack. Maybe this was it. I want everyone to pay attention to something. You see these straps right here, this waist strap? This is what you should have on every backpack you carry. Here's why. That if the pack is adjusted correctly, 80% of the weight should be on these straps on your hips, not on your shoulders, not pulling on your neck or your shoulders, on your hips. This is a good backpack. The wider those straps are on your hips, the more comfortable a heavy pack is. Lesson number 1. So Cole starts off on July 9th. July 10th and going into the beginning of the 11th, heavy storms, thunderstorms, and rain inundated the area he was walking into. They stated that creeks rose. It was just one of the worst storms in a while. That is not good, friends. Lesson number 2. Always check the weather before you start a hike. Personally, I don't care what kind of gear I'm carrying. I'm not walking into that and camping in that. I'm going to wait a couple days. Now, some people say, well, I really want to see that. That's my only opportunity. I've got to catch a plane, blah, blah. Rush to get there has caused many people their deaths. Weather dictates. So, July 13th, 4 days after Cole started his hike, he missed his flight going back to Amsterdam. Immediately, friends got all over it. Where is he? What he's doing? Tried to text him. No answer. Phone's dead, I guess. Called his parents in New England. Told them what's happening. July 14th, he's reported missing to the Spain Defense Organization. Now in Spain, their defense organization is also part of their search and rescue. He's also reported missing to the U.S. Embassy because he is a U.S. citizen, even though he's living in the Netherlands. And it was specifically told that he was carrying this orange backpack. So, find the searchers. What am I going to do? First thing is I'm going to go find his car. And why is that? Well, if his car's there, he's probably still in the valley. Number one. Number two, cars give a lot of hints about what's going on. So, civil defense, they go out and they find the car. Search the car. You may say, well, they have no right to search the car. They aren't in the United States, friends. And under exigent or emergency circumstances, if it was me and I was a policeman, I'd search the car anyhow. I don't care. I'm not looking for drugs. I'm looking for information that'll help me find the person who owns the car. And they did find something. They found that just in the day prior to Cole taking on his journey, that he had purchased camping stove fuel for little camping stoves, which is smart. Tells me that he had intended to go on the backpacking trip. He had intended to eat well. Now, his best friend had stated that he knew he was hiking in the park, but he wasn't 100% sure the route or the intention, meaning, was he going to stay on the valley floor? Was he going to hike up into the mountains and try to see some goats and sheep and antelope? But he did know that at the end of the hike, he was going to be at the Refugio de Pineda. That would be at the end of his hike. And he'd catch a ride back to the car. Now his mom, Trevania, had heard of the disappearance, and she immediately flew to Spain to be part of the search. It's a good mom. Spain immediately sent 2 of their defense helicopters into the park, specifically designed for search and rescue. Most national parks in the U.S. don't even have 1 helicopter. They sent 2. And they also sent in ground pounders, and some of them had drones that they were using. They put up flyers, and just like all good search and rescue, they were interviewing the hikers coming in and out of the park. They wanted them to say if they had seen Cole, or if they're going in, if they do see him, to tell them when they come out. There were probably several hundred to 1,000 hikers inside the park when Cole disappeared. There was a rumor, and I don't like when people post things, even if they think that they're friends, saying that they thought that there was a possibility he may have tried to climb one of the big mountaintops. Well, seeing as he only had a few days in this park, I really doubt that he was going to spend one day climbing one of these mountaintops, especially since he didn't have any specialized equipment. No ropes, carabiners, etc. Well, the first 7 days of any search are the most important. That's when you find clues. But remember, heavy rain hit that park, washed away all the tracks and clues probably. But the searchers also brought in canines, and they weren't picking up any scent. But the searchers were putting posters up throughout the park with Cole's picture on it. First 7 days, they hit it hard. Normal search and rescue in the U.S. lasts 7 to 10 days. In the United States, at the end of 7 days, they'd be gearing down. I can guarantee it. August 2nd, in Spain, in Spanish language, which I had translated, there was an update. And the headlines were, 20 days of tireless searching. I gotta say, Spain, you're doing it right. In America, we would never do this. They would give up. You didn't give up. 20 days. Thank you. The headlines, the command posts have been established in Jaca. The commanders, listen to this. The commanders stated they are still looking air, ground, and water, and they're utilizing drones, helicopters, and dogs. Wow. Mountain units from Aragon, Navarre, Catalonia, and Pegaso were still working, and a special aeronautical team from Teruel were participating. The news interviewed a helicopter pilot, and this person had been flying search and rescue for 20 years, and he stated he had never seen as many helicopters searching for this victim as he did on this search. Interesting. 3 weeks plus searching now. Commanders stated that they would search until Cole was found or they determined he's not in the park. Not in the park, that's an interesting statement. I don't believe that. I believe he's in the park. Cole had done a lot of trips in his past. He was comfortable in the outdoors. I wouldn't say he was an expert in the outdoors. He was comfortable. He'd done a lot of hikes. But with every new region you go into, there's new problems. Did he foresee that there was going to be a giant storm that was going to hit him and inundate the area? I doubt it. My humble recommendation to search and rescue. I would focus on the first 2 to 8 miles in that park. I'd want to look at a map, and I can't find one, when that storm hit that area on his path. Why is that, Dave? So he gets dropped off by the bus. He texted his friend at 2 o'clock. So let's say he gets dropped off by the bus at 3 o'clock. Does the storm hit at 8 a.m. the next morning? Well, that meant that between like 3 o'clock and 7 or 8 o'clock, he got in 5 hours of hiking. Then he went to sleep. Then the storm hit. I'm just saying. So that 5 hours of hiking, I would work myself into the park 5 hours on a normal hike, and I would start searching right there. Because whenever this storm hit, Cole stopped hiking. I guarantee that. Too dangerous, can't see, thunder in the area. Now he stopped and he looked for shelter. Did he go on an overhang? Did he get in between boulders? Get under a boulder? Did he get under some trees? Now you have to start thinking. Lots and lots of rain. Did the boulders he was around shift and trap him inside? Did trees fall on him? Was he under a tree, lightning hit the tree and killed him? These are all possibilities, folks. And let me stop there. Hiding under trees in thunderstorms. Not the best thing to do, but here's what you do. You look at a grove of trees, and in a big grove of trees, you stay away from the biggest tree, and you find one of the smallest trees in that grove, and you hang around that one. Why is that? Because lightning will find the highest point in that area that it wants to hit. So, I think Cole is in that area at the beginning of his hike. First part of the hike would be the focus. I pray that he's alive and he's well, and maybe he just broke a leg or something. And he's just weathering the storm, cooking on that little stove of his. But it's doubtful. Friends, there's dangers involved when you hike alone. Having a time when there's 2 people missing on a hike is very, very, very rare. It's usually just one. When he got off that bus, point of separation, he got away from people. He was going alone. Weather hits the area, a weather event. Lots of water inundates the region. Thankful Spain is still on this. Thank you. Remember about kindness. Sometimes when we go into stores and we're just shopping, and maybe somebody doesn't look happy who's helping us, you don't know if they're having a mental health crisis themselves. You don't. That they just have a relative die and they had to come to work because they need the money. Can't take the time off work. So to get mad at somebody or to get angry at somebody who's not in the best of moods, not fair. I was in a restaurant the other day, a burger place that serves you burgers. And this lady, probably in her 50s, comes over. She didn't look happy. And she goes, "Oh, did you order this?" "Yeah." And she goes, "Anything else you order?" I said, "No, but thank you very much for bringing this over." And she looked at me like I had 3 heads, and I said, "No, I appreciate that. A lot of places you go into, I have to get up and walk across this, but you brought it over, so thank you." She looked at me and goes, "Wow, you're welcome." And she had a smile on her face. And I thought, you know what? Maybe I did a good thing there. Maybe I brightened her day just a little bit, knowing that she's appreciated. How many other people did that? It doesn't cost you anything. So think about that next time you're out. And you are appreciated. All of you that watch these videos, please post it on your social media. Greatly appreciated. And remember, I'll be at Phenomicon in Vernal, Utah at the beginning of September. Phenomicon, you can look it up. And look up Gather Up events. Gather Up, like GATHERUP, Gather Up events. I'll be doing the Caribbean Bigfoot cruise with a couple of PhDs that'll be giving presentations with me. And it'll be a blast, folks. There are some really cool excursions going on. So look him up. And the person who's running it is Marty. Marty's a great guy. Talk to him about it if you have questions. Phone number, contact places under Gather Up events. Be safe. Be kind. Huck is asleep. Paulides out.